Developing tonight, new reports that President-elect Donald Trump is starting to discuss who might be his pick as our next Supreme Court justice. Fox News' own Judge Andrew Napolitano, look at the hair. He visited Trump Tower today, you couldn't miss him, to discuss the choice with the president-elect. And the judge stopped for the cameras on the way out.
We spoke for an hour today about the Constitution, about the Supreme Court, and about the process for choosing the replacement for Justice Antonin Scalia. I think he's going to begin to concentrate on finding a younger version of Justice Scalia and have that name out there before he's inaugurated.
Fox News contributor and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is here with some thoughts on that. This is huge. The Supreme Court, we haven't really been paying that much attention to it. We've been looking at the cabinet picks. But that choice will have a bigger impact.
Far bigger, because if he gets a bad cabinet member, he can fire them. He doesn't get to fire a Supreme Court appointee once they're on the court.
Even if he decides he doesn't like them.
Even if he decides he quits his job, they don't quit theirs. Being president's a 4-year job, maybe an 8-year job. Being a Supreme Court justice might be a 40-year job. The impact of a justice on this country is so amazingly complex that he's got to make good decisions. And one of the things that I hope he does is, I don't want him to look and say, let's get a conservative judge rather than a liberal judge. Let's just get a judge who has a sacred respect for the Constitution, who understands that the role of the court is limited to only interpreting the law, not to creating it.
Well, that's what Justice Scalia did a lot of the time. He said, you know, he was an originalist who said, I don't think you put 9 guys or gals in robes and let them start deciding a bunch of social issues. I think we should stay out of that. And it's not that, you know, he didn't think there was a constitutional right to have an abortion, but he said leave it to the states. If they want to legislate for or against it, leave it up to the states. Of course, that was seen differently. So how many vacancies do you think that President Trump will have the chance to fill? And do you think that he'll fill the Scalia seat before the inauguration, announce his pick?
I think it's very possible that he might. He certainly got that one, that's a given, but he could have 2 or 3 more. I mean, you have several court members who are getting on up there in years, and I don't want to start naming names, because then somebody will say that you know, I'm predicting somebody's demise.
Well, it's not that they might die, but they might leave.
They might, but it's doubtful that a person with a pulse who is on the left will leave as long as Donald Trump is president. I mean, I'm just being honest and realistic.
Justice Scalia would not have chosen to die under a Democratic president if he had been given the choice.
He was a great guy, by the way. I actually duck hunted with him a couple of times, an amazing human being. But the reason he was amazing, that I had so much respect for him, is because he understood that his job when he went in there with that black robe was not to say, well, this is what the legislature should have done, but they didn't, so we're going to do it for them. That's judicial supremacy. It is a very dangerous thing that's really only been in play about 40, 50, 60 years in America. It's not something that the original founders of our country would have tolerated. And it's something that we as a citizenry shouldn't tolerate.
Do you feel like, as governor of Arkansas, this has been a legacy, former governor, that this has been a legacy that you were able to leave at the state level? And speak to, you know, how important this will be for President Trump, because he won this election really by 80,000 votes, if you consider, you know, Wisconsin and Minnesota and Pennsylvania. And those 80,000 voters made a big old difference when it comes to certain policies that are going to go before the Supreme Court.
And those changes and the responsibility goes to the grandchildren, not just to the children, but to the grandchildren of those who are alive today. We elected most judges in Arkansas, but I appointed vacancies and had many appointments. I always try to ask myself, does this person understand that their job is limited to interpreting the law? And if they want to make law, they need to run for the legislature.
Absolutely right. That
could
have been spoken by Justice Scalia himself.
And they're equal. But there's got to be checks and balance. There's no check and balance on the court right now. When the other 2 branches of government surrender to the court, we're in trouble. And we're in trouble right now.
Great to see you, Governor.
Good to see you.
It was fun being on Outnumbered with you today, too.
I had a great time.
We have to stop a meeting like this.
I know.